Welcome back, everyone. Since I got this 1967 Volkswagen bus frame home, I knew it was destined to be something huge, and that's exactly the goal here. Let's build this thing up big into some form of off-road vehicle, but I can't do it properly without some massive camber issues, as a swing axle rear suspension just won't cut it. It needs a later model IRS rear suspension. To some people, it may seem straightforward to use a 1968 or later VW bus independent rear end, but the parts from a Volkswagen bay window bus have limited options. You can choose either stock or, stock and cut it up. Yep, that's about all. Yeah, there's nothing stronger, nothing bigger, very little aftermarket off-road support. But if we look into the same things for a Type 1 platform, there's a massive selection of parts available. So that's what we're going to go with here. It's kind of funny, and up on Instagram, I've already been told that this combination won't work. I guess nobody watches my previous videos where I did exactly the same conversion on Gregory, my other 1967 bus. MFDM, right? Oh well. Today we're going to start out with installing the IRS pivot points. This job is pretty straightforward, as I don't need to cut into the chassis. The aim is to make this thing as big and as wide as possible, and while I narrowed Gregory's torsion tube, I had to do a lot of cutting into the chassis to allow the IRS pivots to fit so that it would all tuck underneath the body. Here in this frame, we have no body with any such limitations. Go big or go home, as they say. So we're going to start off with the trailing arm pivot points, and these are crucial to getting the rest of the rear suspension components fitted. And I'm going to need a lot of parts to get this thing assembled. For years, people have asked me if I had a parts wish list, and a lot of really excited folks have recently asked to help with this project. I never really wanted to create a wish list before, but you guys have requested it. So below in the video description, you'll find a link to the items that are currently on my build list for various projects. If you'd like to help, I could certainly get things moving a lot faster on here, and I and my other viewers would appreciate that. Thanks so much in advance, you guys. And no, I don't expect you to buy this stuff for me. This is just something you guys have asked for. I mean, if not, I'm a self-made man, and I will come up with the money and a way to get it myself. So I really do appreciate it, everybody. Thank you in advance. Likey, likey, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to pluck that dingle belly to get updates every time I upload a video. Check out duckshit.net for all my different social media links. And thanks for watching. We'll be back right after that intro. Alright, Decklid Don, let me borrow his Porter cable. No, this is not a Porter cable, this is a Craftsman Impact, because he claims it'll remove any stuck lug nut. I can't wait to see. I know my DeWalt won't get those off, so I'm thinking that this one probably won't either. I really thought this was his Porter cable. Well, let's see what happens. Ready? I guess that answers that. Let's try another one. Oh, it did get that one. It did get that one too. Well, it's doing a little better, but I didn't try all of them. I just tried a couple. That one's got a head mangled on it. Alright. Well, I'm going to say this one actually did better, but the DeWalt gun that I was using is much smaller than this one. Welcome back, everybody. Behind me here we have my 1967 Volkswagen bus frame, which I'm trying to build up into some kind of big off-road something. I don't know what. We haven't picked out a body yet, but down below in the video description, you're still welcome to make suggestions. But we're here today to install IRS pivot pockets, and you might say, hey, what the hell is an IRS pivot pocket? An IRS pivot pocket is the little pivot point where the IRS arm pivots in, so that way it turns the swing axle rear end that was on this thing into a proper independent rear suspension that doesn't do what swing axles do, where all that camber goes wonky. They much more solid, tougher rear end, and I think we'll be better off with it. But that's what we're trying to install here. And I got some kind of loud stereo in the background, which is the reason why I run music in my background. And guess what, guys? I set it at 3%. 3% volume. If you're complaining about something in the background at 3% volume, clearly I'm not the problem. So that's why music is always in the background. I say it all the damn time, but there's always at least one person that complains. But yeah, that was somebody else running a loud stereo. We got a dog barking in the background. It's just the way life goes. So anyways, we're going to work on this thing today and get this thing welded in. And I guess that's it for now. So something else I've learned about this chassis that I want to show all of you. Yeah, that's right. I discovered something about my own project here. Watch this. There we go. Now let me show you exactly what I just did. The frame head from the Beetle pan actually grabbed the front axle beam's top tube and actually fits right in there. It needs to be trimmed a little bit because they're different diameter, but it did fit right in there. It still needs to go forwards about, well, I don't know, maybe half an inch or so, maybe even a full inch once I get that carved out so it fits in there properly. If this is something that I'm considering. Where this terminates here, it just happens to be almost exactly the same height as the wings here on the frame head. So that's kind of interesting, which means I could run another beam straight back and have this thing sitting at this height. Also in the back here, the pan just happens to be sitting at roughly that height. This is another way to get some extra lift out of this thing should I choose to mount this pan up higher. Yes, it's a doable thing, and yes, I could even make it bolt in, bolt out. Think about that for a second, guys. I can make this chassis bigger and even more unbelievably large than I would have been able to before, just looking at that as a consideration. And seeing as how I'm building this thing in such a modular format, that's another thing that I can consider. I can put a third tube in here that welds in to keep everything rigid and straight. Options. Got so many options. So, anyway, yeah, that's it. Wild Bill is always impressed when he sees me pick up this floor pan. Like, those things are really heavy. Not for a ducky, man. A lot lighter if it doesn't snag on something, you know? Come on, really? It's like balanced. At least that's what it looks like, but no, it's snagged again. There we go. Just need this out the way. Alright, here comes trouble. No! Alright, this is an IRS pivot pocket. There's the 17mm bolt, custom Porsche designed weird ass bolt that goes through it. I get a pair of washers, and this is a retainer bolt. This is not a factory item. These are some nice chromoly custom pieces. Links down below in the video description if you need to build something custom and extra heavy duty. I decided to opt for these because they're better. But these will bolt in right here. Approximately like that. Now you're probably saying, well, how do you know that you're going to get it in there straight? And straight matters all, because if you put this thing in crooked, you're going to end up with camber issues. Because the pivot point will be in the wrong spot. And if they're not equal on both sides, then your wheels are going to end up all, you know, one leaning in different than the other. Yeah, that kind of nonsense. Well, that's where this part comes into play. This is the jig right here that solves the problem. Got a nail on it for the left side, so this is the one that goes right here. It bolts into the end of the torsion housing once the spring plate is out. And right here on this end, the bolt for the pivot point goes through there, and it will hold it in exactly the right location where it needs to be. Now this is not meant for a bus, but because I use this on Gregory, I actually custom made the bolt holes. I got everything aligned and properly built this thing, so that way it works for just about any chassis that I want to put it on. Anything Type 1, Type 2, Type 3, demonstrated it on Ruby just the same. Some cars, like Things, already had IRS. Carmen Gias, on the other hand, it came both ways. To work on a Carmen Gia just the same as well. Anyway, we'll be using these today. Alright, we're going to have to remove the torsion cover housing here and get the spring plate and torsion bar out of the way. In order to do that, we got to take these bolts out. These are 15s. Some cars, they could be as small as 13. I have found cars that also had 14s on them. I'm just impressed that these are even coming out. I did put some pea blaster on them though and let it soak for a couple days. Yeah, they all came out, I don't believe it. There's our cover. This cover's in decent shape too, despite all the rust on this chassis. This thing is reusable. That can be sandblasted, de-rusted, and cleaned up. And even the rubber bushing on the inside is still in good shape. not all worn out. Alright, cool. This spring plate now needs to be knocked off the lower... Got roots growing up in there. This spring plate needs to be knocked off the lower stop down here. I have a tool that allows me to grab on the end here. I call it the chicken foot. Allows me to screw it and lift this thing up and then gently pull it out. In this case, on a bus, they don't work that well. Not to say that it won't work at all, it just doesn't work that well. So I'm probably not going to be using it on this case unless it comes to actually put the thing back together later on. But we might be able to just get in here and pull it out. Yep, there it is, came out. Just like that. You want to keep your fingers away from the underside when you work with these things because these things carry a lot of tension. And if it lets go and catches your fingers, it could break your fingers or even cut them off. You don't want that. At least not normal people anyway. It is 2022, you never know. 2022, guys are cutting all kinds of things off. Well, alright. Hey, this is an inclinometer, as I found them labeled as, but this will allow me to check the angle on which this spring plate is at. Now this matters everything, because if this is the wrong angle when I put it back together, I'm either going to have a higher or lower ride height. I want to put it back together to stock and then make adjustments from that. The other thing that matters is you want consistency between left and right, so that way when you put the chassis back together, it sits at the proper ride height and doesn't sit all crooked. Alright, well, we'll see what this measurement is in here. Looks like it's exactly 20. Now again, this chassis is not level right now because it's in an inclined driveway. But what we want is we want consistency. This thing is not moving from where it's at. I'm not changing anything on it except for cutting up the rear end bits. So when I put it back together, 20 degrees is where we're going to want to be. And I assure you the other side is probably going to be exactly the same. Alright. Another thing you can do, which helps, is to put a mark on both the spring plate and the torsion bar. That way you can get them lined up to the same teeth when you put this back together later. Now there's no longer any spring tension here. Should be able to get this thing off. I really didn't want to pull the entire torsion bar out. That might be what happens here. Yep, the whole bar's coming out. You know what, I guess I do need the whole bar out because the jig won't go on without it out. Alright, here's the torsion bar. And we want to look along the length of this thing for any rust or deep scratches or chips. Because if it has any of the above, that'll form a weak point, which could cause these things to shatter. When I mentioned that in one of the last videos and I actually bought a new set of torsion bars, some people called me stupid. But no, these things need to be this way because these are spring steel. And like I said, if they're chipped and they're compromised, they actually explode when they're in service. So we'll just take this and put it out the way. Here comes our jig. This one's for the right side, so that's wrong. This one's for the left side. It's gonna bolt in here just like that. Alright. Bolts in here. So nice that these jigs fit. They were never intended for a bus, but I took the appropriate measurements and I made them work. I'm surprised nobody makes them, but then again at the same time, nobody's cutting up split window buses anymore. They're just worth too much. It takes a duck man to do something that stupid. Alright, our jig is in place. Let's go around the other side and show you where the pivot pocket bolts in. Alright, we may have some clearancing issues because these parts were intended for well, essentially a Beetle, or a Type 1 style chassis. This bus has much bigger torsion tubes, much larger diameter than that of a Beetle by, I think, up to a whole inch. So this part may not fit in here without some additional clearancing. Well, let's see what we got. I've never worked with the parts from this company before. These are a little different. Maybe they'll be closer, maybe they'll be further. I guess we'll just have to see. All right, the answer was, yeah, I was right. This is not going to go in here without cutting. The question is how much cutting do we have to perform? It looks like it needs about a ½ inch cut out of it, which isn't too bad, because most of that ½ inch is going to be right through here, and then the little titties here in the bottom, and then it should pretty much butt up against it. Yeah, it's off by not even ½ of an inch. So yeah, this tube is probably an inch bigger, like I said. That makes sense because it's a ½ inch in every direction. All right, get out the cutter and do a little slicing. Boy, it's not going to take much off of this thing at all. All right, here we go. Put that in there so we don't lose it. As you have seen in previous videos, I've been running a piece of tape around things anymore instead of drawing lines. I'm going to take off about ½ an inch, and it looks like that's going to be about where we're going to cut it. Just like that. And then down here, these little titty nubs are going to need to be trimmed down a little bit too. I'm not going to cut those just yet. I'm going to get this out of the way. And that's a little less than ½ an inch because this tape is 1 inch thick. So, yeah, we're looking probably about, I don't know, 5/16, something like that. It's okay. We'll run the cutter right through it, we'll size it back up, and then we'll see how everything fits after that, and then adjust these accordingly, or maybe cut even to a little more here. And when I cut this, I'm also going to want to cut at this kind of an angle rather than straight in, because remember, it's sitting in a round tube, and it would butt up against the tube a whole lot nicer if it's done that way. All right, here goes. All right, let's see how close these are. Wow, that's pretty close. Looks like I'm only off by about 1/8 of an inch now. And as you know, we only cut the top. I haven't cut these little titties down at all yet. So I'm going to trim a little bit out of these bits on the bottom here. And then it might just drop right in. Yeah, it's pretty close. Looks like I got about 1/8 of an inch gap here in the radius that's already been cut into it right in here. Cut that down a little. Yeah, it'll probably just drop right into it. All right, well, that's what we're gonna do. I'm not even gonna take off the whole thing. I'm just gonna cut right through here like that. So just kind of nip the end off of it. All right, as I said, we're just gonna kind of nip it off on an angle kind of like that. So I'm not taking off the whole titty. I'm just gonna cut a straight line and take the little bump off of it. Do the same thing on this side. Kind of just like that. I think that should be enough to get it. Pretty close anyway, so let's see what happens. Here we go. Whoa! All right. Let's see how that does. Don't need any of this tape on anymore, huh, guys? I'm sure somebody's yelling already. Take that damn tape off, Duckman. It looks like crap. All right, let's try it again. Oh man, that's really close. Wow, really close. All right, I probably could force it in, but that would cause this bracket to bend. I don't want to move the jig. The jig must be in its proper location, so I can't force it in there, but I don't think we need but maybe another 1/16 of an inch of clearance there. Just a little trimming around the edges. I think that'll be all it needs for it. Probably just a little bit right here, a little bit here, and maybe just a little bit off the ends. All right, well, here we go. And here we are after our final fine-tuning. And it's a perfect fit all the way around, so it's gonna make for a really, really nice welding bead all the way around here. This has a little pin that sticks out that slides into the cylinder here, so that needs to be pressed into place. And again, when you put it in, that jig needs to not be forced. It requires no force right now to push that one in as is, so that's good. Both of these washers, that's correct, both go on one side. That was Porsche's design, because when IRS came into play, Volkswagen turned to Porsche Design Studios and said, hey, we need an independent rear suspension. So they more or less copied something that they had already, which was their Porsche 911. And this appears that it goes in here good. These things can be a little finicky to put together, especially when the thing is on the chassis. You can't get your damn hands underneath here to adjust anything. I think we're threading them. Yeah, the threads are going in. And everything is, as I said, loose, so it's not being forced into place. So you don't want to force these things in. Of course, we got a yappy mud across the street that's going to be interfering with my video. We're just going to screw this thing tight. Just make sure that everything looks like it's supposed to. It's not any faster to turn it with a tool, by the way. You can't get a power tool on it because of the angle. Yeah, because the angle tool and clearances is just not possible without cutting something. Alright, here we are. Snug. Good, I think we're great. Let me show you around. Here's the jig. Going on over to our pocket. You see how it's nice and tight? Yeah, it looks like there is a little gap underneath there. Big deal. I'll fill it in with some weld. There you go. Nice and tight the whole way around. And there's no lip on the bottom because that's just the way it's designed. Now, this was a whole lot easier than doing Gregory's or doing Ruby's, because Ruby, taking one step up, I had to cut into the frame horn so that way this thing could go in a little tighter. On Gregory completely messed that one up. Gregory, I had a much bigger project because I actually moved the end casting here on the torsion tube inwards 2 inches. So I cut this open, moved it in, then I moved this in, which then required me to cut the frame horn. So that was a whole lot more work. This is easy because we're maintaining that width. And that's done by design in this instance, because what we want here is you want the biggest, widest suspension that we can build. And this immediately gains me 2 inches of width just by leaving it right where it's at over a stock Beetle chassis. So yeah, this is good. I'm gonna pull this thing back out. I'm gonna clean up this area in here so that way we can weld on it, and then we'll start running some beads. Otherwise, we're in a good spot. Now that bolt in there that I was just playing with, I'm not gonna loosen or tighten that up again until it's time to take it apart. Instead, to remove this thing, I'm gonna unbolt it from there. Gonna make some marks so that way we know where we need to clean the rust off at, and that should get us. Here we go. Taking this back out. Oh, come on. Of course, the little cup has to roll away from me. That's life, right? Oh, wreck it, Duckman. Destroy everything. Alright, there it is. Whee! Yeah, it's a pretty good fit. Everything looks like it's going to be really nice when this goes together. You know what I should do? I should compare the new part here that I've made to fit to the old part, so that way I have lines to cut on, so I know where I need to go, and it'll take me a whole lot less time the next time, right? Alright, here's the two pieces. Getting a good look on there, you can see that I took off right about 1/2 inch like I had said. So what we'll do here is we're going to make a marking, and this is approximate. What I'll do is I'll cut it long and then fine tune it. Alright, that's where we need to cut here, taking that line out. And then the side piece here, this I don't think I nearly cut quite so much. Yeah, it wasn't cut that much at all. I didn't take very much out of that. Yeah, it doesn't look like I took very much out of it at all. Alright, well, probably I should lay this on a workbench so that way I have a nice square surface. So what I'm doing here is dopey. Duckman, you're doing stupid shit. And you're right. Alright, there it is. I put a little lipstick all the way around it. See? And that should get it the way we need it to be. And then of course I'll fine tune it as needs, but it looks like it'll be a good starting point. Alright, let's get that out the way. Let's put this guy back on here. How does that go? Just like this. Nope, Duckman, you're a dildo. Those washers belong both on the opposite side. You don't know what you're doing there, buddy. Anybody that tells me that I don't know what I'm doing, they're probably right, because, I mean, this is my first time on YouTube. And that's true. It is my first time on YouTube. I've never had a second time on YouTube. Alright, here we go. Let's start cleaning off that rust. Yeah, looks like we're good. Alright, let's get it bolted back in. Going back in, just like this. Oh, come on. Leverage is working against me here. Just the weight of that pocket at the end of that arm is causing it to pull down harder on my hand there. And my wrist wanted to have strength for. Here we go. Oh, Duckman, did you know an impact can strip a bolt? Oh no! One last check just to make sure that this thing is not bound up in there, because if it's bound, you're gonna have force against that jig. You don't want to have, once again, any force against that jig whatsoever. That's where it's gonna be. Okay, we're ready to start tacking that sucker in. Alright, here we go. We'll get started here first. Not easy to get up under here. Alright, I'll move the camera so you guys can see. I like welding thick stuff like this because you don't have to stop and go constantly and worry about burn through. Instead I can just keep going. Alright, we're gonna go over that once more. But I gotta find my wire brush. I don't know where I put it. Alright, it's getting dark out here quickly. Really, really quickly. That's the season for you. Okay, well I think we're in. I'm gonna let that cool down just a little bit, and then I'm gonna unbolt it and pull the entire jig off. So meanwhile, I'm going to start picking up some tools because I think we're just about done for tonight, but otherwise that's the last step for today. I want to get the other side in, but the trimming and stuff just took more time, and then I got interrupted by somebody and kept me busy here for about 90 minutes, but you know, that's just the way life goes, right? Yeah. Alright, well, there it is. Alright, should be nice and cool now. Sure is. Doing this on purpose because this gives me the ability to shimmy this thing around. That way I can get the bolt out. I only made it finger tight, but it sure is in there. Alright, I might put an Allen key in there. Guess the heat caused it to tighten up just a little bit. And I got my breaker bar with a 17mm Allen key socket. And I can barely get this in here. Yep, there it is. We were finger tight anyway, so I didn't have to turn very much. Just a little more than what my fingers could deliver. Here it comes. Boy, this is really snug in here as far as tooling is concerned. There we go. Now comes the bolt. And out comes the washers and the jig and the bolt. Everything is stuck. There it goes. Not bad. I still need to weld around the bottom under here, a spot that I just couldn't get to where the chassis is sitting. Might be one of those things that I get to later when I turn this thing upside down so I can paint it. I guess we'll see. Meanwhile, just put this bolt in here. Yeah, you know what? If I take that bolt out, I can actually get the welds in there pretty easily. I don't think it's going to rain tonight. I'm not really worried about rust on this thing. But tomorrow we'll hit up the other side and we'll get that going. Alright, meanwhile, I'm just going to bring these in. I think we're done out here for tonight. It's getting frustratingly dark. Alright, well, very nice.
The following day.
Alright, welcome back everybody. Or should I say good morning. It's a cold one this morning. Down in the high 30s, upper 40s again. We're going to take this sucker apart. I did P-blaster this thing, and it rained last night. It wasn't in the forecast, but it did. So it may have screwed up my pre-lubing. I may have to do it again. Yeah, that looked out. Good. So far, so good. Off. There's our spring plate. Alright, as I said, don't put your hand underneath it, but I'm the duck man. I can do things that you're not supposed to. Alright, let's see if we can get this thing come on out of there without requiring any additional tools. Yeah, there it is. Pop. Out she goes. Alright, now we need to check the angle. Alright, we got to check the angle of that spring plate. The needle is a little sticky, it doesn't always sit in the right spot. It's saying 22. 22 don't look quite right. 21 would have been closer. 20 is what it said on the other side. So we're definitely having a little bit of an issue here, a little bit of a discrepancy. It's not a whole lot, but the difference is for sure wrong. So we're going to make these match. The other side was 20. This side is showing, yep, 22. You know what? That needle doesn't always sit level, like I said. It likes to stick. Now I'm getting 21. Maybe I should recheck the other side too. I bet you they're probably both 21. You know what? I'm not going to overthink it. 21 is what it is. Let's go ahead and hit the next step. Alright, let's pull this whole thing out of here. Out she comes. Again, looking at the torsion bar to see if there's any damage to it. We're looking for rust, scratches, chips, anything like that. Looks like we're actually in good shape. So this one's a reuser. This thing actually looks like it's like brand new, just a little dirty. Amazing. Gregory wasn't so lucky because the torsion tube actually filled up with water. There were water lines inside of there, and the torsion bar had a lot of rust. You might remember I drew the lines on this one for the lipstick, so that way I knew where to cut it off at. So, yep, now it's done. Look at that. Good job, huh? Thank you. Alright, I'm apologizing for the wind again today, boys. It's actually a little bit windy out there and may affect the audio in my video. Alright, we're gonna get this sucker started up here. Cold again, like I said. The wind's blowing. I wouldn't mind the cold so much if the wind weren't blowing like it is, but because of which I can't feel my fingers very good. Unless, of course, I whack one. You know, like that. Ain't that pretty? Yep. Did that the other day while trying to remove the wheels from this chassis using Decklid Don's impact. Wasn't the fault of his impact. It just happened to be one of those situations where the lug nut socket got stuck on a lug nut. When I pulled it off, boom, I hit the axle nut. And I didn't even hit it that hard, but I hit it just right. And boy, does that hurt. Alright. Run these guys back in. I did verify that this was the right side bracket, didn't I? If I didn't, everything's gonna be all friggin' stupid. No, it's accurate because it goes down, otherwise it would go up. So this is correct, yes. Okay, good. That would have been funny, wouldn't it? Alright, now it gets fun to see if this is gonna fit in here. Well, so far so good. It did fit on the inside. Let's see if I can get the bolt in there. I don't know, that actually might work. Yeah, I might have got it. First try. All my lines were good. I didn't cut off too much. I didn't cut off too little. You know, I don't like the way it fits underneath though. The hook that goes underneath this way, there's a bit of a gap. This needs to come up just a little bit. Otherwise, the spacing looks good. What that means, though, is that this corner here needs to be cut a little bit so that way it comes up a little more. In fact, that's exactly what it is because I can see it. I kind of cut it straight and I didn't even clean the cut up. Yeah, it's kind of ugly. All right, well, we'll fix that. And then it should be okay. Let's see if this sucker fits. Fit pretty good before, a little touch up. And I think we've got it. If not, still got my headphones on. I can trim it a little more if I need to. No, we're good. We're good. Okay. I put the washers in where they belong. We'll get the sucker snugged up. And then we're ready to weld. You know what? I'm an idiot because I didn't clean off the area that's going to be welded. I'm sure somebody's screaming down below in the comments. I already said that. Duckman, you're an idiot. You can't weld over rust. Well, you can, but it's not going to leave you with a good repair. You will contaminate it. All right. Well, as we did before, we're going to pull the whole arm off. Then we're going to bolt it back in. So much faster with a power tool, I'll tell you. Duckman, you can't clean off rust with a cutting disc. Yeah, well, I seem to do a lot of things that you can't do, but for some reason, it always works out for me. There it is. Doing what they say can't be done. This whole chassis needs a good cleaning, polishing, and just, yeah, a lot of rust on here. But we'll get that all straightened out in time. Paint and polish and all that stuff comes last. You know how it goes. First, let's snug this up. Don't need to be tight, just snug it in. this right on here. Yeah, see if my wrist is strong enough to hold it up this time. Yeah, maybe I have a stronger left wrist. Having issues with that yesterday. Maybe I just wasn't holding it in the right spot. I don't know. Who cares? All that matters is that it goes in, right guys? I can only get the bolt started. Go. Okay. Good. And we're in. Very nice. Okay, here we are. Going over. As we're welding in. Going right along that line down inside here, both sides. And hopefully the wire feed on the welder works a little better than it did yesterday. That's what I did yesterday, which really isn't too awfully bad, but they were just little BBs everywhere, which really frustrated the dog shit out of me. Just was ugly, really ugly. Anyway, yep, we'll hit up this thing on this side, and I think we're gonna be good to go. Here we go. Start by getting it tacked in the corners. Make sure we are in all the way. Here, so. Here we go. Also good. I put a little bit of anti-spatter spray on there to try to control some of the BBs, and it looks like it's working. Wherever they land, they just fall off. Good. Alright. Let's get in side in here where it's hard to get to. Oh, well tip in. Boy, it's really hard to get in there. And this anti-spatter stuff, when it burns, it smells like Chinese food. Maybe it's made from Chinese food grease. Well, having trouble with wire feed again. It seems to be in these tips. I bought some tips, a brand I never bought before, and for some reason they hang up. It just released itself. I guess it might be contracting and squeezing the wire when it gets hot. It's the only thing I can think of. I might have to go through there with a bit and just kind of ream them out a little bit. Anyway. When the metal gets this thick, I can run a bead instead of doing the stop-go stuff that you guys have seen me do in the past on just about every other project. The reason why I do all that stop-go stuff is because you burn through, especially with flux core. give a shit what you do, you're gonna burn through because flux core is so much hotter than anything else. Alright, actually, it's not the prettiest weld, but it's not too bad looking, all things considered. There we go, that fixed some of the pitting that we had there. Get down the other side here. Alright, gonna get in some of the hard to reach places, stuff that the camera can't see when I'm doing it, so I'm just gonna hit it, and we'll be back in just a minute. Alright, I was digging around in my welding box and I found one of the older tips that I used to use, and that one worked just fine. All the problems went away. So anyway, I got this sucker welded and it should be cool now. It is. Now I can take this whole bracket back out of here, and what I'm gonna do is actually remove the end first. Oh look, my battery's not even there. How about that? Damn it. Battery located, was in a drill, and I was off doing a side project. Alright, take this out of here. And yes, I'm unbolting the end first, because it's a lot easier for me to wiggle the pivot bolt out of place once this is able to be moved. There we go. See, now I can wiggle that. I'll put the 17mm socket in there. Oh, it doesn't want to turn at all. Guess I better get my ratchet. Again, wish I could get a power tool on there. There's so little clearance on here. There's actually more room on a Beetle. The way this is all designed and how it's put together, it's all different. Alright, got this breaker bar. It's about the only thing that'll fit in here. Before somebody said, Duck man, why don't you just use a swivel? Because there's no room for a swivel. Sorry. I could probably just use a little Allen key, but I don't have a 17mm Allen key. I only have a socket. I probably should try attacking this from the underside. That's not something that I've ever tried to do here. There's just no room for anything. This is one of those bolts that once you get it in, I'll probably never remove it. It's only finger tight now. Yeah, I can turn it with my fingers. Hard to get a grip on it because my hands are so damn big, but there you go. Alright, well, while I wrestle with it, I'm going to let you guys take a break. Torsion and spring plate back in. We're looking for 21, 22 degrees. Get this thing. I think we're a little high. Yeah, 15. I don't think so. One more notch. Try that. I think that's quite right either. That might be. This one That's it. Alright, we're in. Spring plates look good. Of course, I have to lift them and shove them in all the way. We're not going to do that yet because I have to customize them spring plates to make them fit trailing arms, because these were never intended for that. These are spring plates that are meant to go directly to the swing axles. So these need to be shortened up by about half. I made a set already. I happen to do that up on Gregory, and of course I'm going to demonstrate that, but it's not going to be in this video. But that's coming up. Alright, it's everybody's favorite part, where we break out the good old phosphoric acid, aka cat piss, and take care of this bare metal that's on here. Okay, I also found I think it's a quarter, up by the axle beam up front, and I don't know where it would have come from, but it's rusty and just covered in caca. It appears that it's smaller than a quarter. I haven't held a quarter in a long, long time. I mean, years even. It just looks smaller to me. It might have something to do with the the massive devalue of the U.S. dollar, and that could be why it's smaller. Anyway, we're going to cat piss that too. See what turns up. Meanwhile, let's start coating everything here. It's supposed to rain. So I want to make sure that I get this as covered up as I can. Try to prevent any rust. Or I should say, any new rust. I hate to see my new parts rusting up. Rust is just a nuisance when it starts destroying your good stuff. Speaking of rust, it got on my driveway. And usually I'm really good about sweeping up at the end of the day, but for some reason there was just this huge clump of rust up by the axle beam, which is where that quarter was, and it stained my driveway pretty badly. So I'm going to be battling with that soon. And this phosphoric acid will actually do a very good job of taking the rust out of the pavement. What I'll do is I'll dilute it just a little bit, otherwise it's going to eat the pavement really bad and leave a bunch of white stains. And what we just want to do is we just want to get up the rusty stuff. Why does this stuff not seem to be as reactive as it usually is? Smells the same as always. This doesn't appear to be foaming up like it usually does. Weird. Let me just try getting some new. Maybe there was something in the brush. This brush has been around a while. Yes, it looks to be the same color as always. Doesn't it look like it's... I don't know, weird. Really weird. It doesn't appear to be doing any more than what water does. That's really unusual here. I don't know what to say. I'd taste it, but, well, not good for your teeth. It is one of the ingredients in Coca-Cola, guys. So for those of you that are saying, you should be wearing gloves, guess what? I haven't died yet. In fact, I got some rust on my arm, so I'm going to remove it. Yeah, watch. We'll come back in a minute. It'll be gone. One of my viewers said that he got massive burns from the stuff. Massive burns all over his legs and his hands from where he was using them, and I should give better warnings. I'm like, oh boy. Lawsuit City right there. No, it appears to be taking the rust off of this quarter. Yeah, it's active. It's just weird. And there goes the rust on my arm. Gone. Look at that. Hey, and no, it wasn't because I'm getting old, although I am. But that was just from working on this chassis today. Boy, whatever coats this quarter, the alloy that they put on it, it makes it look like it's silver. There really wasn't much of that left. It's just showing up the copper that's underneath. Well, I hope it wasn't a valuable quarter. All of our coin collectors right now are watching us screaming, Duckman, you just ruined a very valuable quarter. What if that quarter was worth $200,000? I guess I'm screwed, huh? You know, this is starting to foam up a little bit, but still, it's not as reactive as it usually is. Something's really weird about this stuff today. I don't think it's the temperature. I don't think it ever mattered. I mean, it is foaming up, but not like it usually does. Anyway. Somebody's car alarm's going off again. Just like always in this neighborhood, when that happens, just let it run. Alright. There it is. We'll come back to it in just a couple minutes. Alright. Wanted to give everybody one good last chance to look at this. Check that out. There they are. Acid appears to be doing its job. I don't know why. It just was slow to react. In fact, look at that quarter. The color's popping out of it already. Not yet shiny. It was pink. Yeah, it's starting to get a little silvery. Anyway, there they are. Looking at these guys, and you guys probably don't see it, but I do. But the one on this side is slightly up a little higher, and the other one on the other side down a little bit. That doesn't matter, because these are squared up by the pivot points. So the pivot points are still going to be moving at the same axis. The axis is where it belongs, so it doesn't really matter that they're up or down a little bit. I mean, probably like a millimeter or two. I mean, just enough for me to see it. You guys probably don't even see it, but I see it. In fact, when I look at it from the side here, you know what? No. That side is even with the frame horn sticking out of there. Looking at it from the other side. Yeah, that one's even with the frame horn. Yeah, pretty even anyway. That might be the one that's down. That one might be even. Anyway, they look good to me. I think we're going to be good to go with this. I should be reassembling this when I get some more parts. I'm waiting for trailing arms. I still haven't found any. If anybody has a set they'd like to send me, my address is on my website, duckshit.net. Check it out, please. Send me up something if you like. And for those of you that have been asking if I have a wish list, I've been telling people for years, no, I don't. I just created one. Links down below in the video description also. You'll find links also on my website to it. So you can see the things that I'll be ordering up or parts that I'd like to get for some of the projects that I've been working on, and that includes this, as well as the go-kart and other things. I feel like a total cam girl with a wish list. But so many people want to support it and have been asking me about it for years. So yeah, wish list is now available. So if you guys want to send me parts, I'll certainly jump on it, and anything you send me, I will install. Let's just say it that way. Usually it's like, no, I don't want that because I don't want to buy it, you know, kind of thing. And if you send it to me, I'll put it on, or I'll find a way to make it work because I'm the duck man and that's what I do. Anyways, I guess that's it for now. So likey, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to pluck that dingle bell so you get updates every time I upload videos. Check out duckshit.net for all my different social media links, as well as my wish list. You'll find it there, as well as my mailing address if you want to send me something on this. So I guess that's it for now. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Hey, you. What are you doing in the front yard, huh? Why are you up here? You don't belong up here. No, you don't. No, you don't belong in the front yard. Get your ass back there. Get back there. Go. Get out of here. Look at me, I'm making noise. I know noise makes you mad. Come in. Oh, he tripped over a stick. That's it. Good boy. I think that's why he attacks me while I'm working, because noise pisses him off. Here we go. You ready, buddy? There he goes. Alright, they say don't lift with your back. I say shut up. You're supposed to lift with your back in a twisting, jerking motion. Here we go. Alright. That squares it up for tonight.